Hi, my name's Cordell, and my family's from Trinidad and Tobago, and I wanted to introduce you to one of our staple dishes. It's called brown stew chicken. So let me just start by telling you what's in it. You'll need about a pound or 2 pounds of chicken. I personally like leg quarters, and I cut them up into smaller pieces so that people can eat small bite-sized pieces rather than large handfuls. What you also will need is potatoes. You'll need about 2 or 3 potatoes. Cut those up however you like to cut them up. Tomatoes, I recommend probably about 1 or 2 tomatoes, usually about 1. I use about 1 to 1.5 onions, and I cut those up in slices rather than chopping them up into small pieces. Now for the seasonings I typically use, and most Caribbean people use, garlic powder. I like adobo seasoning because it's got a lot of different seasonings in it that come from the Caribbean, so you get a little bit of everything. I don't cook with salt because most seasonings have salt in it already. I use pepper sauce. Now, a lot of Caribbean people will use pepper sauce. Brown seasoning, black pepper. I like white pepper myself. Ketchup. I know that's very American of me, but I like the tomato base that it gives the brown stew chicken. And just when you're seasoning your meat, you want to use a little bit of vinegar, just kind of clean out any impurities you might have in the food. And then anything else you might personally want to add to season up your food. Now, I like to make basmati rice, and I steam my rice when I cook rice because it maintains the nutrients and the vitamins. Now, you can also make brown rice with this, and I personally like to make peas and rice when I make brown stew chicken. Typically, Caribbean people will use cooking oil, and they'll put that in the bottom of the pan, and they'll heat it up until it gets really hot, and then you'll add some sugar, or you can use brown sugar, and you'll heat that sugar up in the bottom of the pan until the sugar burns and turns black. All right, so now the first thing that we want to do is we want to turn our pan on a high temperature. So then you want to put a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pan. You don't want to put too much. You just want to put enough so that you could coat the bottom of the pan. All right. So now let's go ahead and season our chicken. I'll start with the adobo seasoning. I'd say about 2 tablespoons of your adobo seasoning. Not too much because it's got salt in it. I believe the directions call for about 1 tablespoon of garlic. You can use fresh garlic if you want to. That's probably even better if you have the time to take and press the garlic, cut it up. That's a good thing to do. Next thing is black pepper. I like pepper sauce, 1 tablespoon in here. Season it to taste. If you can't handle a lot of pepper, don't use a lot. And then finally is ketchup. Remember, it just adds a base to the food. Once you've added all your ingredients, then you want to take the time to massage it well into the chicken to make sure that it gets to all of the meat in your pan. I personally like to season the meat about a night before cooking it so that it has time to soak into the marrow and the bones, and the meat gets time to simmer in the marinade. But if you don't have time, don't worry about it. Season it same day and then cook it up same day. Not a problem. Next thing you want to add, if you have it, don't have to, is brown engraving. It adds a little color and flavoring to the food, however much you feel comfortable with. It's up to you. Once you've added all your ingredients, then you want to take the time to massage the meat. I normally do this over the sink. You never know when you might get a rogue chicken. Work it all in. And the seasonings just smell really good. You can smell it. You're hungry just looking at it because it already looks juicy and good. You can see the brown and gravy's already started to work. So once you've seasoned all of your food and you're ready to start cooking, we go to the stove and heat up the pot. You've heated your pan. You can tell your oil in the bottom of the pan is getting hot. You'll see a little bit of smoke rising up off the pan. You might even hear the pot starting to tick a little bit. It means the pot's ready for the white or the brown sugar. Take about a scoop, put it in the bottom of the pan evenly, and just wait for it to burn. Remember, the sugar, once it burns, adds flavor as well as color to your food. If the sugar's not burning evenly, you can feel free to put your spoon in there and just mix it up a little bit. But while the sugar's burning, you want to go ahead and get your pot of your bowl of meat, because once the sugar's ready to go, you want to be ready to put the meat in the pot. So one thing that you want to be careful of when you're putting the meat in the pan is not to drop the meat in the pan, but to place the meat in the pan. Because remember, there's hot oil and there's burning sugar in there. If the sugar splashes out of the pan onto your skin, it's going to stick and it's going to hurt really badly. So next thing you want to do once the sugar is burnt is put the meat in the pan. You want to distribute the meat evenly in your pan. And you don't want to mix it yet. Just allow it to naturally simmer. Just put it in the pan. You might even get a smoke alarm. That means it's good. Don't mix it at this point. Just go ahead and put it in the pan and then put your lid on it. Once you put your lid on it, you want to give it probably about 5 to 10 minutes to simmer on its own. That brown sugar on the bottom of the pan will start to cook up and merge with the meat, and you'll start seeing that gravy forming in the bottom of the pan. So while that's cooking up, we want to just go back, get our ingredients. We can go ahead and put them in the pan. Actually, not the potatoes, I'm sorry. We want to get the onions and the tomatoes, put them in your pot. I'll just kind of add a little water. Just get those seasonings that I might have missed while I was putting the meat in the pan. And just use my spoon to get all of that because I don't want to waste anything. Potatoes are going to be one of the last things you put in the pot because the potatoes you want to be crispy, you want them to be firm and not soft. Whereas the tomatoes and the onions you want to caramelize and become part of your dish. All right, so now it's been about 10 minutes since we had the food on the stove. You want to go back to the pot and check it and see exactly what's been happening in the pot since you walked away. See the caramelize, all the sugar is boiled down and the seasonings are starting to cook up. You just want to mix it up real quickly. You won't find any more burnt sugar on the bottom of the pot, and look how nice and brown that looks. Mix that up, make sure you get everything off the bottom of the pot. So you come over and you get your vegetables. And you can go ahead and put those in the pot along with your meat. Now that you've put the vegetables in the pot, you probably also want to add a little bit of water to your pan. I recommend not too much. I sometimes see people add it all the way up to the uppermost part of the pot. But I like to add just enough so that the meat is not going to burn and stick to the pot, and that it'll also create a little bit of its own gravy. So once you've done that and you've mixed it all up, you want to walk away from your pot for probably about 25 minutes. Check it. Now that your meat's on the stove and you're ready to let it cook up, or should say boil down, you want to move to your rice. You want to steam your rice. And so what I do is for every cup of rice, I add 2 cups of water and just a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pan, usually olive oil because it's healthier. You want to then take the same brown and gravy and you want to add that to the water to give the water a little bit of color, and then you can season your rice. I like to do the adobo seasoning and maybe a little bit of garlic or whatever else you want, but you don't want to overdo it. It's rice. You just want to add a little bit of flavor. And then I use Goya products. You can use pigeon peas, you can use red kidney beans, or any other beans. You can use black beans if you want to use that to make your peas and rice. So I've gone ahead and I've started the pot. I put the water on. I'm making a cup of rice, 2 cups of rice, so I put 4 cups of water in the pot. Then I put the peas in. I put some of the browning seasoning, and then also a little bit of adobo, and then some oil at the bottom of the pan. I let that boil up. Never put the rice in until the waters come to a boil. Then you mix it up. You're going to leave it on a high flame, and you're not going to mix it. You're going to leave it for about 20 minutes, but you're not going to mix it because you're steaming it. And so if you mix it, you change the temperature levels in the pot. So you just want to make sure that it's not burning. So about 20 minutes, we're going to come back and we're going to make sure that the rice is not burning or sticking to the bottom of the pot. Well, it's been about 20 minutes since we put our meat on the stove to simmer down. So now we just want to check the pot, make sure that it's not burning, and see what it's doing. The meat itself is starting to get really brown. It's getting tender, and the gravy is actually getting thicker. You see the gravy getting nice and thick. We're almost done with our dish. we want to add our potatoes to the dish. Just take all of your potatoes and just gently add them to the dish. Now remember, the goal is not to cook the potatoes down until they're soft, but to make sure that they still remain pretty crunchy, pretty firm, so that you can enjoy the potatoes and they're not just a background sort of ingredient to your dish. You want to make sure that when you come back and check them, that they're not overcooked. You want them to still be firm, and make sure that they're still a centerpiece of the dish and not a background ingredient. So just go ahead and put the pot cover back on, come back in 10 minutes and check your dish. So once you've done that, you want to come back to your rice. You see the water's boiled down. You've got a nice mixture of peas and rice in there, and then you just turn the stove down so that it doesn't burn, and then you just want it to simmer from there. So it's been about 10 minutes. We want to check our rice. It looks like the rice is simmered down some. We just want to now just mix it, just gently mix it. You see the rice is nice and brown. It's nice and grainy, just how you want it. See? So now that we're done with our rice, you want to move on to your main course, which is your chicken. It's been about 10-15 minutes at this point, and you've added your potatoes already, and it looks like you've got a really nice consistency on the gravy. You can also continue to boil this down until there's a little less gravy in the pot, and that the gravy that remains is thicker. That's perfectly fine if that's how you like it. All right, so when you're making your plate, you choose how much rice you like and whether you like your meat on top of your rice or not. Most Caribbean people will take their meat on top of the rice. Look at that. Looks good. I'm hungry just looking at it. And however much gravy you like to put on yours, feel free. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen to cook a pot of brown stewed chicken and peas and rice. Happy cooking.